Welcome to Joe's Kitchen, to our Steakhouse sides part 1. I'm going to show you how to make 2 steakhouse sides today. First thing we're going to make is a real classic one. We're going to make Lyonnaise potatoes. Second one, I'm going to show you how to make broiled blistered tomatoes. Real easy to do with cherry tomatoes. First thing we have here is we have fingerling potatoes here. That's the potato we're going to use today. They've been cut into slices. And then I have thinly sliced, pole to pole, a large onion. That's what I have here, and it's a yellow onion. We're going to start with the onion first. And I've put about, let's say, scant tablespoon of clarified butter, which I have here, into the pan. And we're going to add our onions into this pan here. Just dump in the onions. And now we're going to add at this point a little bit of salt. Grab our spatula here and these need to come up to temperature. And just let them start to cook. We're actually going to use 2 skillets in this process because we have to use 1 skillet to do the onions, and then we're going to cook the potatoes separately. Now these need to come up to temperature, and then we're going to we're actually going to clamp a lid on that, and I'm going to go grab a lid for that. Because we need to cover the skillet and allow the onions to get tender, because we need to cook these onions through before we caramelize them. If they get brown before they cook through, then the texture is not going to be the same. So we want to let these go here. They're starting to sizzle. I'm going to turn down my heat to about medium, and we're going to cover. We're going to let the cover do all the work. We're going to stay covered. And we're going to do this for about 10 to 12 minutes it should take for these onions to become tender. Start our timer here. And then also what we have here is I have a little bit of sherry vinegar and a little bit of cream sherry. This is just to give our little nuance to our onions once they are cooked. And then we're going to remove the onions off the heat, and we're going to do the potatoes in a larger skillet, as you can see here. Also going to cook them in clarified butter, of course. And then when the potatoes are fully cooked, which is very easy to do because we're using the fingerling potatoes, which are great for saute. They'll cook very quickly, and then we'll be able to add our onions, and everything will combine at the end. I'm just going to take a look at these, give them a toss. They don't need to be fully cooked at the 10 to 12 minute mark. They just need to be soft, and then we can proceed from there. So we'll cover these, and we'll come back in 10 minutes and we'll check on the status of our onions. Welcome back to Joe's Kitchen. These are our onions that I've cooked for 12 minutes. I've lowered the heat now. They are tender. Now we just have to caramelize them to doneness. I'm going to go 20 minutes on these onions on really low heat. It's going to be plenty for these to cook them the way I want, but you can caramelize them to the doneness you like. And we'll just set our timer for 20 minutes. And then we'll be back in 20 minutes time, and I'll show you how to proceed, and we'll start our potatoes. Welcome back to Joe's Kitchen, and we're working on our Lyonnaise potatoes. The onions, as you can see them right now, this is what we want. It's been less than 20 minutes, so I'm going to cut that at this point. And what we're going to do first is we're going to turn the heat up high, because we're going to put a drop of the Harvey's Bristol cream in here. You don't need much, maybe a teaspoon is just enough. It's just for that little bit of flavor. Give it a swirl. It's going to give it that lovely flavor. And now we need to counterbalance that with a few drops of vinegar. Just a few drops of cherry vinegar. And that's it for our onions. We're not going to put any pepper at this point because we're going to put pepper in our potatoes. Take them down here. And we'll leave them be. Next, we're going to access our skillet here, which I'm going to wipe the water out. Make sure it's dry because we're going to put some. Now I'll place our large skillet on here. Place it over high heat. And we're going to pour into the skillet, we're going to pour a film of clarified butter. We're not going to go too much butter. Just enough to film the pan. And you want to get this good and hot because we need to cook our potatoes, and we will still use our lid. I'm going to put a little more in here. It's plenty. Okay. Get rid of the bottles now that we don't need them anymore. Okay. While that heats up, want it to get nice and hot. It's important that the clarified butter is nice and hot when we slide in our potatoes. Okay. Here in the sizzle, you don't want your butter to burn, but you want it to be nice and hot. I can hear it sizzle, so we're going to slide our potatoes in here. And we're going to reduce the heat down to medium because we don't want everything to, these to cook too fast. And we're going to leave them on the one side. Try and get them to as even of a layer as possible. They won't all be exposed at this point, but we'll give them a toss halfway through. So just leave them on the one layer. We're not going to season yet. We'll season it later on before we put our onions. I've also preheated the broiler here on high so we can do our broiled blistered tomatoes, which is a real easy side and wonderful with steak and simple to do. I'm going to cook these for 5 minutes on this side, and then we will check them at that time. Just make sure the heat isn't too high. Also going to put the lid on here so they can get a little bit of steam action happening while they cook. We'll come back in 5 minutes and we'll check out our potatoes. Welcome back to Joe's Kitchen. We're going to now open up our potatoes here. Take the lid off. Yes, sir. You're seeing some nice color. This is the good toss. Beautiful color. They're not all going to get beautifully golden brown. Get them all even, and now we're going to give them another 5 minutes with the lid on, like so. Timer for another 5 minutes. And in that time, they'll be done at the 5 minute time. And we'll be able to season them. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back to Joe's Kitchen, where it's been 5 minutes. We're going to uncover our potatoes. Get rid of our lid. And this is our potatoes here. They look beautiful. And what we're going to do here is we're going to I'm going to turn off our burner, reach in here. Now I'm going to pull the potatoes out of the pan here because we need to get rid of the excess clarified butter that's in the skillet here. If you wanted, this butter could be saved to use for a fried egg, but we'll just discard it here. We don't want our potatoes to be greased. They're going to meet back into the skillet and just warm together with the onions. It's important to pull them out. The last couple here. Just a few minutes here. Okay. Now we'll pour off our clarified butter. Place our pan back on the heat. We'll throw our potatoes back in. And now we need to season them. We need salt, then it needs black pepper. Okay. Beautiful. And onions. Now we'll slide our onions in here. We're just using the residual heat left over in the burner. That's it. That's our onions. And just get it well combined. Make sure you have a hot dish to serve them in. We're going to serve them in here. And I'm going to scoop them out with a slotted spatula, just in case of any extra leftover residual butter in there that we don't need any of the extra fats. We'll pull these out. It smells delicious. This is perfect on the side of a steak, roasts, real classic steakhouse size. And it smells wonderful. All nice and caramelized. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to make broiled tomatoes. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to In Joe's Kitchen, and what we're going to do now is broiled tomatoes. I'm actually going to broil a few more extra. What I have here is, these are mixed cherry tomatoes. I'm not going to boil them all. Let's just take not that many, should be fine. And these are mixed tomatoes. You could use straight, plain cherry tomatoes, but I like the mixed ones. And what I have here is we're going to add in here a teaspoon, like a half teaspoon of fresh thyme. We're also going to put in good sea salt and fresh pepper. And then extra virgin olive oil and good olive oil. And I've got it in a little bowl here. I'm going to make this very easy. And all you do is you mix it up. We're also going to add to this just a few little bits of finely chopped shallot, about a teaspoon's worth of finely chopped shallot in here. And then just slide your tomatoes directly on a parchment lined baking sheet. So these are going to go under the broiler, and really this is going to be a very quick process. So we're going to watch them carefully. We're going to set the timer for 5 minutes. They might take less time. And then we'll give them a stir, and then we're going to set the timer again and cook them for a few minutes longer. You just don't want to overcook them, and they are going to pop, so you have to be ready for that. Get rid of our bowl here. Okay. And this is very easy to do. It needs to make sure you use cherry tomatoes. You could also use grape tomatoes, cranberry tomatoes. Trying to use the cranberry tomatoes would be not the best because they're so tiny. But these ones are nice, they're easy to work with, and they're delicious. And these are heirloom cherry tomatoes. And I'll show you the package here. It's got nice orange and yellow tomatoes and nice red tomatoes. Beautiful. You want to get good tomatoes when you're doing this. Don't just buy run-of-the-mill tomatoes. You want tomatoes that have a good flavor to them and that taste good. Because if you buy bad tomatoes, they're not going to have any flavor. And if you can't get any good tomatoes, then I would suggest doing a different vegetable side for whatever you're making. Because you want to make sure you have a good vegetables. You don't want to eat something that's going to be nasty because it has no flavor and it's going to be blah. You want to make sure you use good product. That's why we're using good tomatoes here. I'm going to open up and take a look. I can see it sizzling a little bit, but it's probably going to take more than 5 minutes. We'll be back in 3 minutes and we'll check the status. And see you in a few. Back to Joe's kitchen. Now we're going to take a look at these. And these are in fact done. I'm going to pull them out now and I will show them to you. That's what you want to see. They're beautiful. They're blistered. And I've got a nice bowl to serve them in. Make sure it's a warm bowl. And you don't want to cook them to death. These are soft. And they're nice and colorful, especially for spring. Okay. They're delicious and lovely. And now we can shut our broiler now. Beautiful. Delicious. And I want to thank you for joining me in Joe's kitchen today and learning 2 steakhouse sides. And everybody stay safe and peace out and keep it real.